Welcome to the Sports Talk Podcast, Fantasy Baseball Advice show with Alec Pecano on Thursday, June 6th. Let's get started. Today's show, we are going to go over my weekend preview for fantasy baseball, along with a couple prospects to stash at the end of the video, and some bold fantasy baseball predictions for the weekend. Let's get started here. Here are my pitchers to stream this weekend for fantasy baseball. Okay, we're not doing this. My first pitcher to stream this week for fantasy baseball is Simeon Woods Richardson from the Twins. He pitches on Saturday at the Pirates, and you may see one of his teammates later on in the show. The next guy that is pitching this weekend is Mitch Spence of the Athletics. He starts Sunday at home against the Blue Jays. Now with Mitch Spence, I've been surprised how good he has been over the recent couple of weeks. I wasn't going to even think to talk about him in weekend preview this weekend, but then I'm like, okay, you know what? It's probably smart that I do, because there is people that probably need pitching. And the Blue Jays, they look like they could be back, but I want to take a swing on him and his teammate, Luis Medina, who starts Saturday versus the Blue Jays at home. Medina made his season debut last week and pitched particularly well in that season debut. Had a few strikeouts, a couple walks, did give up a couple runs, but I like the positives I saw from Medina in that first start. Now, here's the last guy I'm going to say to stream, but this is a deep leagues, and if you're desperate, Aaron Savali of the Tampa Bay Rays starts tomorrow night against Baltimore at home. So you've got Woods Richardson going Saturday, Spence going Sunday, Medina going Saturday, and Savali going Friday. Those are your four pitchers to stream this weekend. Now we get into the waiver wire pitchers under 80% rostered. And a few of these guys, I don't know why they're so low rostered. One of them being Ben Brown. Only 15.3% rostered. He has been a rotation guy for the Cubs for the past couple of weeks now. And it sounds like he might stick around in that Cubs rotation because they're still without Jordan Wicks. And even if Wicks comes back, I think if Ben Brown does get bumped to the bullpen, he still gets used in that long relief role that they were using him in before they put him in the rotation. So I would advise to go out and add Ben Brown, as he is spark eligible. Next, if you need saves, the next two guys can get you that. Yimi Garcia is it Jimmy or Yimmy? It's one of the two. I'm going to go Jimmy Garcia from the Blue Jays. 13% rostered. Right now, he is the quote-unquote, open quote, closer for the Blue Jays, with Jordan Romano being on the injured list. And I would go out and add Yimi Garcia if you need saves. And the next guy is Reds reliever Alexis Diaz. He's also the closer of the Reds. He's a little bit more rostered than the previous guy I talked about, Garcia. He is 71.1% rostered. Again, the threshold here is 80%. If they are over 80% rostered, I cannot mention them on the waiver wire. this might be your last chance to get Alexis Diaz on your fantasy team. Keyword being might. Because I think if he can fix a couple things that he's been working on, that he will be a lockdown closer and he will be a linchpin for your fantasy baseball bullpen. And the last guy is Hunter Harvey of the Washington Nationals, 16.8% rostered. Harvey is not the closer, but if you need holds, if your league does saves plus holds, Hunter Harvey is probably the guy you want. He has 18 holds this year. He leads the team in holds on the Nationals, which basically means you come in, you pitch an inning, you don't give up a run. That's what is considered a hold. Now we get to my waiver wire hitters under 80% roster. My first one is Pirates second baseman Nick Gonzalez, 12.9% rostered. It seems like the breakout is here for Nick Gonzalez of the Pirates. And I would think you want to jump on this before it's too late with Nick Gonzalez. And before people pick up on that, he's still available in quite a few leagues. And I would go at Nick Gonzalez. The next guy is Tigers third baseman / outfielder, and he's a prospect. Justin Henry Malloy. Only 0.9. He's under 1% rostered. He's going to get regular playing time, it sounds like, for the Tigers. I know I said that about a couple other prospects when they got called up, but the Tigers have told you he will get regular at-bats. And he's, like I said, 0.9% roster. Now, these last two guys, if you need shortstop because you lost Corey Seager, I would consider adding Jose Caballero of the Rays. 15.9% rostered. He's up to 21 steals, and he that's his main focus point is stealing bases. So if you need stolen bases, I would consider Jose Caballero. And the last one, if you need a catcher, because you've been playing the waiver wire for catchers all season, I think I found one. And it is Reds catcher Tyler Stevenson, 8.5% rostered. I don't know how he's managed to only be 8% rostered. I think he needs to be rostered in a ton more leagues, not just for me, but for everybody else. Now, part 2, weekend waiver wire. Hitters to stream. And the first one is Athletics outfielder J.J. Bleday. 3 games at home against the Blue Jays. And Bleday's roster rate's starting to creep up a little bit. It's at 18.8%. I know what I said on Monday's show when I did my weekend recap. I said I've been burned by J.J. Bleday too many times. Am I willing to do it again? And my answer is yes. I'm going to say this. I think J.J. Bleday is probably my ride or die on the Athletics. He is 18.8% rostered. If you need some outfield assistance, because you've lost Willie Abreu, you've lost Sean Bouchard if you were playing him, you've lost Lars Nootbaar. If you somehow manage to accidentally drop Tyler O'Neill, I would go out and add J.J. Bleday for this weekend series at home against the Blue Jays. Next is the Pirates catcher / outfielder Henry Davis. 3 games at home against the Twins. 1.8% rostered. Now with Henry Davis, I'm unsure if he's going to play every day, but if you need a streaming option at catcher, I would consider adding Henry Davis. And if he's in the lineup, you put him in yours. If he's not in your lineup, you don't put him in your lineup. The next one, and this guy's in the thumbnail, it is Tigers third baseman / second baseman, but he's been playing second base. Colt Keith. 3 games at home against the Brewers. 6.2% rush. It seems like the Colt Keith rookie breakout is slowly coming around and starting to happen. And I'm here for it. I am here for it. If you have an open roster spot, because you had to drop Spencer Torkelson, because the Tigers sent Torkelson back down to AAA, I would go out and add Colt Keith. And the last guy I would add off the waiver wire is Elliot Ramos. He's got 3 games at the Rangers, 3.2% roster. And I'm going to talk about Mr. Ramos later on in another segment. So be keen for that. But Ramos has started almost every single game since being recalled from AAA. And I would feel confident enough streaming him, picking him up this weekend, streaming him, and keeping him rest of season. Prospects to stash. I've got 4 prospects on here, and this segment is going to be a permanent segment. The first prospect is shortstop Jordan Lawler of the Diamondbacks. With Lawler, he's 1.6% rostered. And I've got a feeling that sooner rather than later, the Diamondbacks, he just came back from injury, so I think the Diamondbacks probably want to give him a little bit of time to recover from that injury, but when they feel the time is right, which I think is going to be sooner rather than later. I like Blaze Alexander. Kevin Newman said, you could easily get rid of Kevin Newman and call up Jordan Lawler. So I would, if you have a bench spot, I would stash Jordan Lawler. The second guy we're going to talk about is a Rays prospect. And no, as you see, it is not Junior Caminero. It is Carson Williams, shortstop. He is 0.4% rostered. And this is a long-term stash for Williams. Because I don't think, unless it's September, I don't think he gets called up till September unless the Rays have a lot of injuries that happen in their middle infield because he's a shortstop. If they have, say for example, Ahmed Rosario gets hurt, Caballero gets hurt, Brandon Lau gets hurt, then they're going to have no other option than to call up Carson Williams and possibly recall Jonathan Aranda. Because Aranda or Curtis Mead. So I would stash Curtis Mead and I would stash Carson Williams. The last 2 prospects are outfielders. The first one is Guardians outfielder, George Valera. Now, his estimated time of arrival to the big leagues is 2024. So he should be getting called up at some point this season. I don't know when that's going to be. It might be later on in the season after the Super 2, which is this month. So, and I think that's why some of these guys are getting sent down because they want to avoid the Super 2. And they don't want to give him the max. I don't know if it's they don't want to give him the max extension. Say that fast 5 times. I bet you can't. But I think George Valera will get called up soon enough. It took him long enough to call up Colin Lanzardo. I think Valera's next. And the last one, he made the opening day roster for the Cardinals. It is Victor Scott II. 1.2% roster. And I think the reason the Cardinals sent Victor Scott that, obviously it's because their outfield was getting healthy. But I think they wanted him to get everyday at bats, and two, I think there were some little things there was some stuff they wanted him to work on, and that's why they had optioned him down to the minors. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back up with the big league club sooner rather than later. And here's my weekend bold predictions. Weekend bold predictions, fantasy baseball. Number one, and it seems like this guy is starting to heat up a little bit since I talked about him the last time on the show. And that is Brandon Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays. I think he has a 3-hit game or a 2-homer game versus the Orioles this weekend. Next is Colt Keith. I think Colt Keith has a massive weekend this weekend in fantasy baseball for the Tigers this weekend at home against Milwaukee. I think Simeon Woods Richardson strikes out 8 and goes 6 innings Saturday at the Pirates. And I'm going to say something on the Woods Richardson. Not only does he do that, and I think he does it at under 100 pitches. Now, that's a bold prediction. A big-time bold prediction. And then my last bold prediction is I think Elliot Ramos goes off this weekend at Texas. I did not previously look at the pitching matchups, but I would imagine he's going to have a huge weekend this weekend. And if you don't get him in fantasy baseball, if you don't pick him up, I think you might regret it. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a thumbs up on it. And also, the Sports Talk Podcast, I would appreciate actually, if you joined the Sports Talk Podcast community by either subscribing, and if you're already subscribed, thank you for subscribing to this channel, turning on notifications, purchasing a membership or merch. But little programming note. Tomorrow we have first episode of Rocky's Franchise, which is at 3 o'clock. At noon tomorrow, we have I believe it's tomorrow. It might be next week. But I have a lot of good upcoming content on college football and MLB coming up within the next couple days. June 20th will be the next NFL Power Hour show with Alec and Gerald. But tomorrow night at 6:50, we have a live reaction for the Rays and Orioles game right here on YouTube. Don't miss out on that. And if you haven't already seen or heard, I will be taking this YouTube channel and the College Football Podcast, which is on this YouTube channel, on the road with me September 5th through the 9th to Blacksburg, Virginia for Virginia Tech Marshall. All 4 days I'm there. Because the 5th day I have to fly home, which is that Monday, the 9th. But the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. All 4 of those days you will get a live stream from Blacksburg. Saturday, the 7th. The live stream will start at 12:30 because the game doesn't start till 4:30. And if you have any questions about my college football trip this year, fantasy baseball questions, or just any questions in general, please remember to leave them down below in the comments. And that will wrap up today's show. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday afternoon. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.